speaks a lot to the length that we've traveled and where we stand today and the opportunity and potential that's here. So welcome to Peshawar, everyone, and we hope this is only the beginning of a journey that you have with us. I'd like to appreciate the Board of Investment, and I'd also like to appreciate Hassan Dawood and the KP Board of Investment for the efforts and the work that they've been doing in terms of attracting investment both to Pakistan and specifically to this province, because we desperately need it, and because it is actually reflective of the change and the confidence that we need to see happen for this province to move forward, to be a safer, a more secure place and a more prosperous place. We all know that these goes hand in hand, and the impact of some of the investments that we've had already shown. This province is rich in many areas. I think the cardinal rule of investment and investment attraction is that you want to garner strength from your own competitive advantage. So I just want to talk about a few of the sectors over here, because I hope that in the rest of this conference, which I hope results in as much success as possible, that I can excite as many of you as possible about potentially pursuing the investment journey with us. No better place to start than the energy sector. We have both the Energy Minister and the Energy Secretary over here. This province is rich in hydro energy resources. We have always provided the backbone of the power sector in this country. And I think by partnering with you to develop further hydro potential as we have in joint partnership mode of late, we stand to be able to do a couple of things. First, we are able to make more energy available to industry in this province, which, as you know, is very well situated in terms of not just serving the domestic market, but in terms of access both to the Chinese market, which is relevant, as well as access to Central Asia. And what is important is our own energy policy is really centered around the fact that we actually try and make a lot of the energy that we actually generate available to industry that operates here, so you can have access to cheaper energy that is available to industry that can give you a competitive advantage both for the domestic and the international markets, in addition to the incentives that are on offer in general in the country. I think, and Himayat Khan can correct me if I'm wrong, but the bulk of the 40,000 megawatts of hydro potential that are available in this country are almost all situated in this province. So we have only yet really explored the tip of the iceberg. And that is also not to say that there is also still significantly more potential in terms of exploring other sources of energy, such as oil and gas resources. And the KP now produces almost 50% of the oil production in this country, more than enough gas production in terms of serving its indigenous energy needs. And this is something that, as we go beyond with significant untapped areas, that we can choose to actually expand it. Similarly, there are pockets of solar energy potential in the south of the province that can again be used to tap what is both a market of about 20 million people in the south of the province, as well as access to southern Punjab, northern Balochistan, because it's at the tip of 3 provinces. So again, exciting potential over there. The mines and minerals sector, we have the mines and minerals minister over here as well, is another sector where in the entire country there is significant potential, simply because we as yet really tap the potential in this sector in a very rudimentary way. And so what we're actually doing is looking for partners who can come and invest with us at scale, help us develop the sector and take what I would actually call to be the early mover advantage in terms of becoming the first big players to help partner with us in this sector, where again there are significant resources, but mostly really managed at a local level. Perhaps the jewel in the crown of the potential that we have in this particular province relative to the rest of the country is the potential for tourism, and in that sense the potential for tourism not necessarily just to attract international tourists, but also really to stimulate the domestic tourist market, where we have at least a 40 to 50 million strong middle class, as well as a diaspora of about 7 million Pakistanis, many of whom come back to this country every year, choose to take their holidays here, have their families here. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has traditionally been the nucleus of tourism activity in this country. But as we all know, with tourism as a sector getting on the map of development of Pakistan after the personal attention paid to it by the Prime Minister, this is the time for this industry to explode. And as I said, I think you will find that we invest in better infrastructure, better hospitality infrastructure for people to stay in our tourism hotspots, better infrastructure in terms of restaurants, and better infrastructure in terms of roads. I think this is a sector where at the moment, because we have such limited traditional focus on this, that the potential is huge. And this is where I think with very little capacity that has traditionally existed in the country, I think there is fantastic opportunity both for Chinese firms, as well as the Chinese ambassador said, for third parties to come and join and develop this province for tourism. There will always be a niche for international tourism, for Muslim tourism from the Middle East and other sectors. We know that there are specific areas of this province, such as the Swat Valley, referred to as the Switzerland of Pakistan. We have representatives from Switzerland over here today. We have, again, very varied landscape from the north and south of the province, from Chitral to Di Khan. We have history and the Gandharan Buddhist culture that can significantly be tapped into. We have UNESCO World Heritage Sites, such as the Buddhist ruins at Takhbai. And as the potential of some of the areas in the tribal districts opens up, I think that the tourism sector in a country that's starved for entertainment can simply actually feed off just the domestic potential itself, because people in the summer need cool places to go to. And we're already seeing a transition with places like Malam Jaba, where we have a state-of-the-art 5-star hotel and ski slope of places that were traditionally considered summer tourism hotspots, now being open to tourism 365 days a year. So I think if there were one sector that I would really hope that we can help develop and that can actually help stimulate economic growth in this province, it's the tourism sector, and I would urge everyone to actually look at that very seriously. We are sometimes struggling with many of the same issues that other sectors or other provinces struggle with as we hope to attract investment. Issues like red tape that we try and cut, issues like simplifying processes. I'm sure the chairman is thinking a lot about that and spending a lot of time on how to try and make it easier for businessmen to operate. But one thing that I can promise you in this province, we are happier to take greater risk and be more innovative. And no better example of that than the Rashakai Special Economic Zone, which we hope will end up serving as a nucleus of exports to the Central Asian region. because this is the first economic zone not just under CPEC, but the first economic zone that is going to actually be run by an independent special purpose vehicle, which we are going to make completely separate from standard government procedures. So with a little bit of effort and a little bit of luck, we hope that this will actually become the blueprint for what a dynamic, innovative special economic zone should look like. And we hope, of course, to expand the gamut of such zones significantly. Connecting all of this, and certainly a core area for investment, and one which I think will make a huge difference, is the need for infrastructure. That need for infrastructure starts off with roads, of course, and we both need to improve connectivity to the north. This is the first province that has actually invested in a provincial motorway, which is the Peshawar to Chakdara section of the Swat motorway, and phase 2 will connect this to Chitral and then onwards to Gilgit. But equally important, and one that will, I believe, both transform the economy of this province as well as the safety and security of the region, is the north-south connectivity through the Peshawar-Di Khan motorway, which is roughly a 300 billion rupee project, one that will need to be financed one way or the other through public-private partnership, and one that actually is the sort of significant opportunity that we look to consider financing both under CPEC or other public-private sector arrangements. That infrastructure, again, is the tip of the iceberg. I go again to the DNA of this province, which is in being entrepreneurial and innovative in terms of other opportunities for infrastructure. Over the last year, we invested, led by the personal effort of the Chief Minister, into the health sector by actually becoming the first province in this country and the first province in the region of attaining what we are very proud of, is some form of universal health care by giving insurance of about $7,000 a year to every family in this province, which means that the 40 million residents of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa now have access to health cover wherever they live in Pakistan. Now, this is a noble goal in itself, but it actually also significantly opens the opportunity, we hope, for investment in infrastructure in the health sector. Because, as we say in our public speeches, this is the first time that any investor can come and think that every person in this province has a potential check of ₹1,000,000 or roughly around $7,000 that is available. And because, like other developing countries, we have acute gaps in our healthcare delivery, this is something that we already see the private sector filling. The scheme has been rolled out, and about 50% of spend already goes to private sector hospitals. But I think in areas outside of Peshawar, this is a massive opportunity for the private health sector, whether within the province, within the country, within CPEC or outside, to come and think of investing in the healthcare sector. Because as we all know, health costs are inelastic, and this is a huge opportunity both to have social good as well as to actually have a viable opportunity for investment. And before I leave, again, one last sector that is worth touching upon, and that actually plugs into perhaps the greatest resource of this province, is our human capital. And that human capital ranges, of course, from our many educated engineers, doctors, and professionals, but also to the hard-working labor of this province that actually is responsible for the bulk of remittances that come into the entire country, Because if there is one population in Pakistan that actually understands the concept of labor mobility, it's the people of Pakhtunkhwa. You don't have to take my word of it. Just look at the proportion of people of this province living in Islamabad, living in Karachi, living and working in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in other GCC countries, and even beyond, in the UK and the USA. And I think that's actually driven by a culture that is somewhat more egalitarian than many other developing cultures where there is a greater sense of hierarchy, somewhat more entrepreneurial because we are people that primarily live on mountains. We aren't able to develop the sort of feudal mindset or hierarchy of society that may occur in other places, simply because we don't have the land to base it on. So we go out trying to earn our bread and butter. And remember, and this is something that I was actually told by a former head of the National Incubation Center over here, whose job was to talk to tech entrepreneurs emanating from Peshawar. He said, this is the one province in the country that I can ask the young entrepreneurs of Peshawar to get themselves ready for a meeting with some investor in Karachi in 16 hours time, and they'll just hop in their car and drive 16 hours to Karachi and be there at 8 a.m. because they have that hunger. And we have that hunger over here because we're actually looking for opportunity. We're a smaller market, we're a smaller province than the other provinces are, right? We have to search far and wide to earn our keep. And that's why we're so proud to host you here. And that is why also, as we look to invest in other sectors, I think one sector, we're also joined here by the IT minister, one sector that we should actually look to tap, that we look to investors to tap, both from China as well as from elsewhere, is the IT sector, where we hope to actually, first of all, contribute more to the footprint of activity within Pakistan. Straight after this meeting, Zia and I are going to meet one of Pakistan's biggest IT businessmen who is hoping to invest and expand the operations of his outsourcing group to Peshawar. And we are proud. These are early successes, early indicators of the confidence that people are starting to have in Peshawar and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, an area that just a few years ago that we could not get people not just from outside Pakistan but from elsewhere in the country to come with as much assuredness and safety as we do today. We can do that, and this is the beginning of our journey, and we hope to take it a lot further. I'd just like to end by apologizing if I have been too biased in the favor of this province, but that is my job. We should, of course, also hope that you invest in the rest of Pakistan. There are ample opportunities across, but hosting you in Peshawar, I felt it was certainly my job to tell you of why, if you're choosing a place to invest in Pakistan, you should consider Pakhtunkhwa. Thank you so much. Assalamu.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.